Hello, World Hoppers. I'm Johnny O'Neill, president of Brotherwise Games and creative director of the Cosmere RPG. We had an amazing time at Dragonsteel Nexus. It was so cool talking to so many of you who came up to our booth and said, thank you for what you're doing, or you shared some of your experiences playing with the beta materials. And it was by far the most gratifying, coolest experience I've ever had at a convention. And one of the most fun parts of the convention was our Friday night panel, the State of the Cosmere RPG. And at that panel, we talked about kind of where we are right now and what's ahead. And I'm going to give you like a rapid fire condensed version of that hour-long panel right now. So we started off by announcing that we are currently on track to hit our originally promised dates of September 2025 fulfillment for Stormlight printed materials. We'll ship digital stuff or send digital stuff a couple of months, 2 or 3 months before that. So far, the date that we've listed in our Kickstarter of September hasn't changed. If anything, we're feeling like we might be able to be a few weeks early. So we're doing great on that front. And a big part of that is that we have already sent the Stormlight handbook off to the printers. Now, this is not a final copy of the game. You'll notice it doesn't have gold foil or gilded edges, but it does have all the content. And what a lot of content it is. We originally expected this to be 200-something pages. It landed at about 382, and that is because we wanted to make it the best it could possibly be. So during our panel, we shared off the first look at a couple of internal pages like the introduction or this warrior talent tree where you can see shardbearer talents for the first time. The full talents appear in the books, but even from these little condensed descriptions, you can get a sense of how awesome that's going to be. We shared a look at Stoneward ideals. We shared a look at the Will Shaper talent tree, which has cohesion and transportation, two of the least revealed surge binding trees so far. Pretty exciting stuff. And while the handbook is already off and at the proofing stage, the world guide is not far behind. Our art director for Stormlight, Katie Payne, took us through the process for how we brief and go through sketches and finally end up at beautiful finished art for one of our illustrations by Amaryl here of an encounter in Shadesmar. Pretty awesome. And then our book lead for the Stonewalkers campaign linked adventure, Lila Fujiwara, walked us through how that's going. It's going great. We did talk about the fact that an element that was originally in the adventure, Nightblood, had to come out for continuity reasons. It was actually Brandon's idea to put Nightblood in, but then we talked to Karen Ahlstrom, the continuity editor at Dragonsteel. It just wasn't working from a travel time perspective. This doesn't harm the story in any way. You still get to interact with a herald-slaying weapon. You still get to interact with 3 different heralds, hang out with axes, do a ton of really cool stuff. And we're still going to give you the stats for Nightblood. They'll just be in the Advanced Adversaries e-supplement rather than in the adventure itself. But that adventure is so cool. It's canonical. It's telling a story that hasn't been told before, beautifully illustrated, and it's just a great adventure. This has been thoroughly playtested to give you a fantastic campaign experience. Even if your group has no familiarity with the Stormlight Archive, by the time they complete that adventure, they will have gone through the journey. They'll be swearing ideals, they'll be fighting the forces of odium. Stonewalkers is not to be missed. And since the handbook is off to the printers and the other 2 hardcovers are nearly complete, we're about to turn our attention to the softcover supplements and to various accessories like the cards and the maps and the tokens. Those are all pretty quick projects. They're all pretty close to done. We just need to put a few finishing touches on those before we can give you the final 100% bait. I am excited to share that the miniatures and the dice are completely turned over to the factories. So those are in great shape and looking awesome. And so in general, Stormlight is almost done on the RPG side. That brings us to Mistborn. Mistborn is deep into design right now. We are well underway on our manuscripts for the handbook and the world guide. And things are looking great. This was probably the juiciest part of the panel. We shared a few different things. We talked a little bit about why we think Era 2 is such a great setting. Even though we all love Era 1 as a story, Era 2 is just a lot of fun when you bring in Twinborn and guns and cars and all the trappings of modern life that make it feel even more like an action movie. And we gave some early sneak peeks at talent trees from Mistborn. Now, these are like alpha level playtesting right now. Don't take them too seriously, but they are off to a nice start. We have a new leader specialty, the Mastermind, which lets you be like Steris or Kelsier or even Tress if we're going broadly in the Cosmere. Somebody who makes a plan and brings an entire group of people along with it. If you know what events are in our system, the Mastermind can actually make her own events and apply opportunities to that event, which is super cool. We've got guns in Mistborn Era 2. We also showed off a new warrior specialty, the Gunner. And guns are a pretty exciting new addition to Mistborn Era 2. A gun isn't going to do as much damage as, say, a shard blade, but because every gun has pierce, they ignore armor. which makes sense. You don't see a lot of people walking around with armor in Era 2. And they've got a few associated talents that can really play up the deadliness of firearms. So we think we've added them in a way that's balanced with everything that's come before, but feels appropriately powerful. Soothing and Rioting are a new addition in Mistborn, and I think they play really into our overall philosophy about how influence works in the Cosmere RPG. We never want your character to be sort of mind controlled into doing something that you don't feel is right for that character. So you can, across pretty much any situation in the Cosmere RPG, always spend focus to resist influence. This happens in conversations. If you try to influence an NPC and they're not having it, you can succeed on a test. They'll spend focus to resist, and you can keep trying until they run out of focus or until you failed too many times that the scene ends in failure. Soothing and Rioting, what they do is they actually give you a focus reward for acting on a rioted emotion or avoiding a soothed emotion. And so that's a really cool way of mechanizing Soothing and Rioting that still kind of plays into player consent, doesn't feel like mind control, but feels very appropriate to how those things are represented in the books. And here's a sneak peek at our Zinc Allomancy tree. And because we know this is one a lot of people are curious about, here's a peek at Steel Farrakhan. I played as a Steel Runner. It is very fun. You feel very fast. So that's a roundup of what we talked about in both Stormlight and Mistborn. And of course, what's next? Well, the entire Cosmere. We're going to take our time to get this right. We want our first couple of years to really be about Stormlight and Mistborn. We've got some exciting new things coming in 2027 we haven't talked about yet. But as we look ahead further into the future, we want to work on World Hopper stories, Elantris, Warbreaker. We did a little cheer poll during the panel, and I would say we heard the most cheers for Warbreaker. Warbreaker knows. There was a lot of enthusiasm for all of them, and we'll be following that up with more scientific polls and asking Brandon what he wants to do first. But I can tell you, our team had a creative summit before Dragonsteel Nexus where we all got together face to face and brainstormed the future. And we have such good ideas for how we're going to implement all of these systems. We've had from the beginning, our action system from the beginning was designed to help balance Elantrian magic, for example. When we were working on tension, we were doing it very much with awakening in mind. So all of this stuff has been very thought out. It's very integrated, but it's also something that we're going to take years to do right. And we're going to work very closely with Dragonsteel to make sure we're moving in a cadence that works with the books that Brandon's publishing. So thanks to everyone who made it out. We got some great questions, got a lot of great energy from the crowd. And again, it was just so cool to see everybody face to face now that we've had these big projects and people are so excited about the RPG, also about Mistborn. There was a lot of love at this convention and it was very mutual. So thanks to everybody who made it to Nexus and to anyone who didn't. Hopefully this video left you feeling a little bit in the loop, and keep following our campaign updates as we work over the next few months to get everything produced and shipped and fulfilled and into your hands so you can play this awesome game. Thanks.